Have you ever felt like you were chosen for something greater, but instead of feeling blessed, you felt broken? Like the calling placed on your life, the one that no one else can see, is slowly crushing you from the inside out. There's something people never tell you, something hidden beneath the surface of every divine purpose. A truth so raw, so uncomfortable, that most will never say it out loud. Being chosen is not always a gift. Sometimes it's a curse in disguise, a beautiful lie that only reveals its thorns once it's too late to turn back. If you've ever sat in the dark, wondering why your soul feels so heavy, if you've ever begged God for peace, only to be met with silence, if your mind screams while your heart pretends to be okay, this message is for you. Not because I have answers, but because I have scars. You see, the world loves to glorify the chosen ones. But no one talks about the cost. No one talks about the sleepless nights, the betrayal, the spiritual warfare that never ends. This isn't a motivational speech. This is a lifeline for those who are drowning in a purpose they never asked for. And before we go deeper, I need you to do 3 things. If this already feels like your story, like this video, not for me, but for the others who feel what you feel and need this message to find them. Subscribe if your soul has been craving truth in a world that keeps feeding you illusions, and comment 99 below as a sign that even when 99 walk away, you will be the one who stays, who endures, who keeps going, because you know there's something sacred in the suffering. Now take a breath and hold it, because what you're about to hear will shake something deep inside you, and maybe, just maybe, set you free. They never tell you about the isolation, not the kind where people leave, but the kind where you leave, not by choice but by force, because your spirit begins to vibrate at a frequency the world doesn't understand. Suddenly, small talk feels unbearable. Crowds feel loud yet hollow. You sit in rooms full of people and feel like a ghost. Being chosen doesn't just set you apart. It disconnects you from the version of reality that others live in. You're not crazy. You're just not blind anymore. And the moment your eyes open, the separation begins. From friends, from family, from your old self. You start to see behind the curtain. You recognize lies that everyone else still calls truth, and you try to warn them. But they look at you like you're the one who lost your mind, so you stop talking, you stop explaining. Because what's the point of sharing visions with those who refuse to see? But the silence doesn't bring peace. It brings a deeper ache, one that whispers, no one will ever understand you again. And maybe that's true, because the chosen are not meant to blend in. They're designed to be disrupted, to break patterns, to awaken sleeping souls, even if it costs them everything. But here's the catch no one tells you. Before you wake others up, you will be stripped to the bone, alone. Not abandoned by people, but removed by purpose. Because solitude isn't punishment, it's preparation. In the stillness, you meet your shadows. In the absence of noise, you hear the voice of the one who called you. And in that holy isolation, you realize something terrifying and liberating. You were never meant to belong. That loneliness? It's not a wound. It's a doorway to the next dimension of your calling. But only those who dare to walk through it discover what waits on the other side. And that's where we're going next. Because the deeper you go into this calling, the more your own body begins to fight back. And when that happens, you'll need to know what's really going on. They say the body keeps the score, but for the chosen, the body becomes the arena, not for sickness, but for spiritual warfare. You start to feel tired, but not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. You feel drained, like something is feeding off your energy even when you're doing nothing. Doctors run tests, everything comes back normal, but you know, something is not normal. Headaches that arrive out of nowhere, chest pressure in the silence of the night, trembling hands, racing heartbeats, muscles that ache without cause. It's as if your body is speaking a language no one else can hear. Let me tell you the truth most won't understand. Your body is reacting to the weight of your calling. You're not just tired, you're being drained by the spiritual tension between two worlds. Because when you carry light in a dark system, you become a target. And that attack doesn't always come through people, it comes through your flesh. But don't confuse this with weakness. The pain is not proof that you're fragile. It's proof that you're carrying something sacred. Your nervous system starts to rebel because your environment no longer matches your elevation. You're evolving, but the world around you hasn't caught up yet. So your body becomes the translator. It screams the things your spirit has been whispering all along. You are out of alignment. You are absorbing pain that was never yours. You are holding back power that needs to be released. You weren't built to numb it. You weren't called to ignore it. You were meant to transform it. But first, you have to survive it. And here's where it gets mysterious. The more you resist your calling, the louder your body will scream. It doesn't want relief. It wants release. There are things locked inside you that were never meant to stay silent. Gifts, visions, messages from heaven waiting to be delivered through your voice, your hands, your presence. But every delay, every denial, every fear you feed, it all builds up until your own body becomes the battleground between your purpose and your hesitation. So when the fatigue hits, when the pain comes out of nowhere, don't just ask, "What's wrong with me?" Ask instead, "What have I been refusing to step into?" Because the moment you answer that question is the moment everything starts to shift. And in the next breath, we'll go even deeper. Because once the body begins to speak, the world starts to push back. And the next thing you'll face is rejection so deep it'll shake your soul. But what if I told you that rejection was the key to your elevation? They won't say it out loud, but you can feel it. The way the room shifts when you speak your truth. The sideways glances, the subtle silences, the conversations that die the moment you enter. They don't always exile you with words. Sometimes they do it with absence, with ghosted messages, with invitations that never come, with a quiet consensus that you don't belong. You've been called too much, too intense, too sensitive, too spiritual. But here's the twist they'll never understand. You're not too much. You're just not for everyone. The truth is, your spirit carries a frequency that exposes what others are trying to hide. When you walk into a space, you don't just bring light. You bring clarity. And clarity is uncomfortable for those living in denial. You were never designed to fit in. You were created to interrupt, to dismantle the illusions, to shake foundations that were built on lies. And yes, that comes with a price. Rejection. But here's what they won't teach you. Rejection is not always a loss. Sometimes, it's a filter. It removes what cannot go with you to your next dimension. You weren't abandoned. You were redirected. Rejection is protection in disguise. It's the universe rearranging your life to match your anointing. Because the higher your calling, the smaller your circle becomes. Not everyone can breathe at your altitude. And that's okay. Let it hurt. But don't let it shrink you. Don't water yourself down just to be digestible. The world doesn't need a diluted version of you. It needs the real you. Unapologetic, unfiltered, unstoppable. And yes, it's lonely. But chosen paths are walked by singular souls, pioneers, prophets, those who carry blueprints for realities that don't exist yet. You were made to stand out, to disturb, to awaken, to lead. So the next time they whisper behind your back, Smile. Because your difference isn't your flaw, it's your evidence. The sign that you've been marked for more. And that's why everything that tried to reject you will soon have no choice but to witness your rise. But first, you have to go through the fire. Because after rejection comes the ultimate test, the breaking. And when everything in your life starts to fall apart, that's when your true power begins to surface. Get ready, because what comes next will either destroy you or unlock the version of you the world was never prepared to meet. There is a moment in every chosen one's life that feels like abandonment. You've done everything right, you've sacrificed, you've obeyed, you've cried out in the middle of the night with hands shaking and heart wide open, but nothing. No voice, no sign, no confirmation, just silence, and not the peaceful kind, not the kind that soothes, but the kind that echoes, loud, empty, terrifying. You look up to the heavens and whisper, "Where are you? Why aren't you answering me? Did you forget I was chosen? But what if I told you? This silence isn't punishment, it's preparation, because for those who are truly chosen, there comes a sacred test. The test of walking forward with no visible light, where faith is no longer based on feeling, but forged in fire. In the silence, God is not absent. He is watching. Not to see if you'll perform, but to see if you'll believe without applause. To see if you'll stay faithful when the miracles don't show up on schedule. The silence strips you. It peels off the layers of dependency. It removes your need for signs, symbols, and guarantees, until all you're left with is the purest form of faith, trust without evidence, and that, my friend, is where the real power is born. Because anyone can believe when the path is lit, but only the chosen can walk blind and still not stumble. God's silence is not rejection, it's a sacred space. It's the void where your spiritual ears are trained, where your inner compass is recalibrated, where your authority is refined. In that stillness, something begins to shift. You start to hear differently, not with your ears, but with your soul. Whispers that others miss. Signs hidden in the ordinary. Divine direction embedded in silence. Because silence isn't empty, it's pregnant with purpose. And when God finally speaks again, it won't be to comfort you. It will be to release you. Release you into battles you now have the strength to win. Into assignments that only silence could prepare you for. Into authority that only obedience could unlock. So if you're in the silence right now, don't panic, don't run, don't doubt your calling. Because the moment heaven goes quiet, hell gets nervous, and that means you're closer than you think. But the silence is only part of the story, because once you pass this test, the final transformation begins, a moment where everything that was taken starts to return, but only if you survive. What's coming next? The awakening, the unveiling, the rise of the true chosen self. Are you ready for that? Because what happens next will shake everything you thought you knew about yourself. Transformation is never gentle. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for the right time. It comes like a storm, fierce, unpredictable, undeniable. And for the chosen, it comes with pain, deep pain, the kind that cracks your soul open and leaves you breathless. The kind that makes you question everything you thought you were. But hear this. The pain is not random. It is sacred. Because you are not just being changed. You are being rebuilt. Restructured from the inside out. Not into something new, but into who you were always meant to be. You lose things. And people. You lose beliefs. You lose versions of yourself that were never authentic. That's why it hurts so much. You're shedding the false to uncover the divine. The fire you're in right now. It's not here to destroy you. It's here to purify you. To burn away the fear, the pride, the illusion, the shame. To leave behind only what's real. Only what's unshakable. Only what's eternal. And yes, every tear you cried, counted. Every betrayal you endured, noted. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every collapse, none of it was wasted. It was all fuel. Fuel for the forge that is shaping you into someone dangerous to darkness, someone unrecognizable to your past. Because only those who've been broken know how to hold the broken. Only those who've walked through fire can guide others out of it. And only those who've been crushed can carry the oil. Yes, you are becoming oil. Pressed, crushed, refined. But that oil, that sacred anointing, is what the world is starving for. They don't need another perfect image. They need someone who survived what should have killed them. They need someone like you. But to get there, you had to die 1,000 small deaths, to your ego, to your plans, to the life you thought you wanted. Because God was building something bigger, something unshakable, something eternal, and now you're almost there. The old you is fading. The new you is emerging. And soon, very soon, you'll understand why you had to walk through hell with your eyes open, because after the pain, after the fire, after the silence and the breaking, comes the awakening, and what's waiting for you on the other side will make every scar feel like a crown. But before that glory arrives, there's one last thing you need to hear. One final truth that will seal this journey, and that is what we'll face next. Yes, being chosen is a weight that breaks bones, a weight that crushes illusions, a weight that no one else sees, but heaven watches with awe. Because not everyone was born for this. Not everyone was trusted with fire. But you were. If you're walking through the dark night right now, hold on. Not because it's easy, but because it's sacred. Because the deeper the valley, the higher the calling. Because what feels like breaking is really becoming. And if your soul is tired, if your heart is screaming, if your spirit is on its knees, resist. Not out of stubbornness, but out of knowing that God didn't bring you this far to leave you half-formed. He's not done. He's just getting started. The pain you're carrying, it's the mark, the evidence that you're being carved into something rare, something eternal, something dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. You were never cursed. You were set apart. You were refined.